Hi, y'all, it's me. I'm back as promised. I am going to be sharing today with you my wedding favors and a tutorial for those of you who are interested. Um, and for those of you who are coming to the wedding, I'm sorry it's a spoiler, so if you don't want to watch, don't watch. But anyhow, let me just tell you this. I looked around for possible things I could purchase to give us a thank you for coming to our wedding, sharing the special day with us. And somehow candles and I don't know, the other things I was seeing just didn't feel personal enough to me. I felt like the people who are sharing our special day with us should have a gift that's special from us to them. And this is what I came up with. So if you plan your wedding or your party or whatever event you're planning with enough time, you can actually devote the time to create something that takes a little more time than normally anything else would. And I feel like that is what I needed to do. So I'm going to show you a tutorial on how I made what I made and explain what they're for because you may not know. Well, you won't know. So anyway, what you're looking at is this is just looks not like there's a lot here, but it is a lot, and I will explain it as I go through. But these are the components to make everything that I need for our favors. So I don't even know where to begin, and I hope I do a good tutorial because I'm not really great at all this stuff. But anyhow, so what I am going to do is I'm going to scoot this over to the side and I will explain how I did every little part of this. My fiance was so sweet. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that he actually was die cutting and helping me because there's a lot involved into this particular thing. And I wanted to, he wants to help, so that's great. So what I've decided to make are these little envelopes. Now, before I get going, this idea is totally not mine. One of my favorite crafters, who is not around anymore, is Melissa. She was the Vintage Goose, and she had this tutorial for this. And I saw it a long time ago, and I always loved it, and one day I knew I was going to do it, blah, blah, blah. So I recreated what she showed. However, I added a couple of differences, and one of them being that she used texture paste to emboss gold polka dots on here. I didn't want that, so I didn't do that. And then she used a circle for this part. I used a heart. She also used something different here, and so there's differences, but I'll link her tutorial down below for you. But anyhow, this is what I made with all the stuff you see here. And it's going to be an envelope that has a thumb drive in it. And on the thumb drive, we are giving a bunch of our favorite songs. Now, if you know my history with my fiance, we dated way back when, and we reunited after 42 years. And we used to disco dance in the days, and we used to enter competitions and all of that kind of thing. So we have a lot of special music that we love from that time, that era, and some current songs, but we decided to make a thumb drive for all our guests so that they could share some of our favorite music with their self when they're home, plug it in here, plug it in there, whatever. It used to be people would make CDs for weddings, but because nobody uses CDs anymore, we opted for a thumb drive, and I really wanted a nice way to give them the thumb drive. So this is what I chose. So let me start by showing you what is involved and whatever. You can definitely watch Melissa's tutorial if you feel like you need to do that. I'm just going to give you a basic rundown. So to start off with, I needed to come up with vellum. This piece measures 8.5 by 4.5 this way, 8.5 this way. I folded, I don't even know the measurements. I folded it up and have a flap here. So that's how I created the envelope part. I notched it here with a circle punch. I use this embossing folder. Now this one's a little bit bigger than some of the embossing folders out there. So what I suggest is if you're going to repeat this, I would do this much of the fold, cut the paper, fold it, and then I would run it through an embossing folder. You would fit the whole thing that way, but the way that I did it and the way I wanted to do it, I only wanted to emboss this much of it, and I wanted to leave that plain. So that's why I chose to do it that way. So anyhow, then I took this to my sewing machine and I sewed 3 sides of it. When you sew this, you want to be sure to sew it on the back side, which would be this piece without the notch. You want to do that because the better stitching will show on the outer portion as opposed to showing on the inner portion. You only need to sew 3 sides. So I just, all these that you see, and I have more, this is just some, that's what I did. I just sewed one after another after another. So that's the envelope. I was going to use the gold like Melissa did, but that would have taken way extra long. And then I also thought about the gold polka dot paper, but when I went to Hobby Lobby, even at 40% off of $1.99 a sheet, I was only going to get 2 per sheet, which means I needed 50, and that was going to cost way too much money. That's why I opted for this. Plus, I like the idea of just having the raised polka dots as opposed to the gold for this particular purpose. So then the next thing I used was, I used a heart die, which is just one die in here, that one right there. And I only had one, so we had to cut 100 hearts 3 times because there's 3 separate pieces you need, and I'll show that in a moment, as well as tickets. I only had one, so we had to cut it 100 times. Crazy, I know. But anyhow, let me get to showing you exactly how this comes together, and I'm gonna try to do this as easily as I can. Let me get all my components over here so we can just start. So what I did was I had a template. After I cut out the heart, it was cut with this template, and I'm using a collection called Wedding Bliss from Echo Park. I also have the digital. Now what really helped me was having the digital, because I needed to print a lot of this particular paper and this one here, and so I could just digitally print them. I didn't have to use the ones from the actual paper pack, which I can save that for my album and whatever. So it really helps having a digital collection. So anyhow, back to this. I cut a template of this size. I cut one that was a little longer, and I cut one that was a little, well, I should say shorter, and then a little shorter. There's 3. So after we cut out 300 hearts, 3 of the black pattern, 3 of the other color, and then 3 of the, 1 of the burlap, I went back and I used this and laid it on each piece to trim them down, which brought me to this here. I ended up with this. This is the lighter colored one and the burlap heart. So that's what I ended up with once I followed the template. So we got all that done. The next thing I did was I came in with fringe scissors. You don't have to use fringe scissors if you don't have them, and I don't even think I have them out here anymore because I used them a little bit, but it was just, yeah, I just cut fringes in all of this. If you could see here, there's cut in this piece and the shorter piece. So the next thing I did was I pushed this up with my fingers, just like this, really easy. I didn't make a big deal out of it because you can make adjustments later. So I'm pushing all those up, right? The next thing I did was I took my glue and I came in and just threw some glue here, some glue here. I glued this on top of this, just like that. Sorry, hope you can see this. And then I used this. Since this is burlap, I wanted to make sure that it would stick, so I just used hot glue, just like that. And then this is going to go on here. That's how I created this heart. And then, like I said, you can come back after when you're working on it and just kind of fluff these out or whatever you need to do. Okay, the next thing that you needed to do was I needed some tickets, which are in the back, and then this label. I printed this out on my computer, and I took a gold marker and I went around every single tag so that I could have this. Melissa used stickable labels that were already pre-gold, and I didn't have them, and I didn't want to buy any, so I just made these myself. So once you have your envelope done, the next thing you need to do is you're going to need to add a doily. So I just took the doily and I folded it in half, just like that. Well, sort of, just like that. When you're on camera, everything messes up. I took a tape runner. I'll do it on here, it's easier. Tape runner on there, on this side, and a tape runner on that side. And then I simply glued this, whoops, too quickly. It's easier if you do one at a time, I guess, one side at a time. I just kind of centered that doily. This is a 4-inch doily, and press it down. So the flap is going to be the back, and the front is this part here. So one step I did forget, I'm going to be corner rounding my corners. Again, that's not necessary if you don't want to. I just want to. And I'm only doing these 2 bottom corners and these 2 top. And I should have done this before doily, but I forgot. Because I'm on camera, so I forgot. So let me just see if I can't get it to work. And it did. So there you go. I just rounded those corners. The next thing I had to do was I had to glue this on here. And for that, I just added a little bit of hot glue to the back. After I married these 2 together, I did all the prep work ahead of time, so I wouldn't have so much, to do as I was preparing these. I'm going to leave that for 1 second and jump ahead to this. I have to add these tassels, which I handmade. I made 100 tassels. Yes, it was a lot of work, but it went pretty quickly because I had a system. I have 2 jump rings, and I want to use a jump ring because I want movement with the tassel. I don't want it to just sit there. I'm going to go ahead and put this on here right now so I can get this part out of the way. This being burlap made this super easy. I didn't have to poke a hole or punch a hole like Melissa did on hers. She punched a hole with a hole punch, but she was only making a couple. I'm making 100. So this works out very easy. Oh, and one more tip on the burlap. These are burlap paper from Hobby Lobby, so it's stiff. It's not like burlap. And once I did the heart, since there's this point here, I came in with a glue, and I just put a little glue down there at the end so that this would not unravel at the tip where the tassel is. Okay, back to this. We're over here now. So now I'm going to just come in, and I'm going to put a strip of this adhesive right here. Reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to come in with this gold thread that I got at Hobby Lobby. We all have it, I think, in our stash somewhere. I never figured I'd use this whole thing up, and this worked out perfect. You're going to lay it on to the adhesive and just start looping this. It's just the easiest way to do this without having to keep gluing or whatever. Just loops, lots of loops, here, there, and everywhere. I don't have a rhyme or reason. I'm just doing, like I said, just some big loops. I'm going big with the loops because of the heart is going to be in that position, and I'm going to need to have them showing from the bottom. So you just go around until you're satisfied with your loops, and if you have enough, that's great. And if you want to add more, add them. I think I'm going to do one more here. Sorry, I hope I'm still on camera. I'm trying to, okay, that's it. So I'm going to just leave it at that. I'm going to snip off the remainder right here, I think. Oh, I didn't get it all. And that's that for the gold part. Coming in, I'm going to come in with my glue gun just to reassure that that stuff is stuck down and put a little bit in the center there. I'm coming back with the heart. I'm going to put some glue on that. It doesn't have to be perfect because this is the back of the heart and no one's going to see it anyway. Come in and set that right onto the thread, being sure to adjust your thread where you need it if it's not sticking out where you want it to stick out. It's kind of haphazard, so it doesn't have to be perfect. So that's the next step. And finally, the last step, in which I had to do a whole bunch of, was I had to do 100 of each color of these little flowers and then glue the little pearls on them, which is okay. I'm just going to kind of squinch those up a little bit. And then I'm going to glue these right onto the tip of that heart. Oh, I did forget something. This, you're wondering, oh, what's that for? This stuff right here is just some fiber. I want to stick it through the jump ring. I'm just going to tie it on there. No rhyme or reason. Just tie it on so it gives it another texture. And then I'm going to glue this on, and then I will trim those up a bit. So first I'm going to glue these on right here. I'm sorry that the camera's not up close, but I didn't think you'd be able to see as well if I was like right on top of it, and you kind of can get the gist of what I'm doing here anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and glue those on, and then come back with my scissors and give these little guys a haircut. And basically I have completed one of my little projects, and they don't take very long to make. They come together really quickly. It looks like it takes long because I'm sitting here on camera and trying to do this, but when you're doing it, what happened here? My two threads are twined. Anyway, but when you're doing this, just sitting here doing it, they go really quickly because I have everything pre-made. So that really helps when you are prepared and have everything pre-made. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm sorry the video is a little bit long, but I wanted to explain everything. And I will be back, probably next video will be to share my save the date cards. So until then, do what makes you happy. Bye for now.